there is anything that can contribute to that investigation, because while the suspected shooter is being charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder, they expect potentially dozens of more charges to be added to this case because of all the victims that were there, the people who dropped items and fled for their lives. We know that some of those items are starting to be handed back to members of the community at the Family Assistance Center. They're also getting some mental health treatment, Andrea.
Shaq Brewster, just incredible sadness, devastation there for that community. And turning to the other recent mass shooting now in Uvalde, Texas, a new report showing that the gunman could have been stopped before he even entered the school. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock joins us from Austin. So, Sam, as I understand this report, the police officer had a shot but didn't take it because he didn't get approval.
That's correct. That is definitely the top line of the report, Andrea. And as you talk to family members who lost loved ones that day at Robb Elementary School, they're anguishing every hour of every day with all the possibilities, all the permutations of what could have happened that day as it concerns the police response. So to find out from the State Commission report that was released yesterday that there were 3 instances of things that happened prior to the shooter actually entering the building that could have altered the fate of that day, saved lives, if not 21 lives. Certainly, they are still trying to process all of that information. But let's talk about that first one. The police officer that you mentioned, it's hard to think of an analogy or another event like this in recent history where a police officer had a clear shot at a suspect seconds before that suspect entered the building, and yet he, according to testimony that was offered before the State House behind me, was waiting for permission to actually fire the shot. I'm going to read you some of the excerpts of that report, which perhaps shed a little bit more light on what was going on. It says the officer turned to get confirmation from his supervisor, and when he turned back to address the suspect, he had entered the west hallway unabated. Now, in terms of weighing in on this, what the report has to say about the judgment, a reasonable officer would conclude, in this case, given the totality of the circumstances, Andrea, that use of deadly force was warranted. The caveat to this is that the state teaches using a rifle within 100 yards automatically in a situation like this. It doesn't spell out what happens beyond 100 yards. So clearly, there is some gray area there, some discretion. But that does not change the fact that this could have all been prevented should a shot have been fired at that moment. Although it's also important to note, Andrea, that we're looking at a situation where this officer said he was worried about striking kids, or what else could have happened had he missed the shot. So there's a lot of angles to it, but many parents right now frustrated and in many cases infuriated by what they're learning, Andrea.
Well, I can imagine their frustration. I mean, the whole country is watching this and horrified, and it's their children who could have been saved. Sam Brock, thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.